Good morning to everyone. Thank you for coming. Let me first open my comments as I always try to remember that I want to give my prayers and my sympathies out to those who are has had a loved one lost through gun violence, but also those who are still grieving. And we are in a process. Grieving does not just happen overnight. It does not end overnight. And I just wanted to make sure that from my office and my family, our heartfelt sympathies go out to the families who've lost their loved ones. We also, I want to make sure that we put it out there that we will be reaching out from our office to those families if they need mental health and grief counseling. That is available. And that's part of the process I want to talk about today, is that when we have incidents of violence, gun violence, or even suicide, the mayor's office, we work with our social service agencies to ensure that the families have a network of support that can help them through that process. And we wanted to really let you know that the first 24 to 48 hours, there are a lot of things that are happening. And there's a lot of things that are happening. And the first is when I get the call. If I get the call from the chief, and that's probably one of the toughest things that I have to deal with, is to get the call from the chief about someone losing their life, either but from gun violence or suicide as well. And then the next thing we want to know is get a briefing from the detectives who are on the scene and kind of figure out where we are. The third piece, and it doesn't also happen in this fashion, is that you have the families who are and family members who are associated with that. And I always want to be very respectful of the family. I want to be respectful of the, many times there's not times where they are identified yet. They don't know if that's their loved one. So just if you kind of figure out, well, what's happening? There are a lot of things happening that you don't see. There's a lot of times you may ask me, Mayor, what's going on? And really, we're just kind of piecing the pieces together, but also we're reaching out to the family. I've been on that other side of that call where I've had family members that have lost their life to gun violence, and it's hard to hear from the streets, and we're not sure that's really the case, that it's your loved one. But that's why we're working from our office to make sure we reach out to the families. We're making sure that we give them a positive idea, but also letting the men and women of Youngstown Police Department do their job. And many times that happens. Some of the crimes happen in the middle of the night. Our detectives are not able to even get back home, showered up, and rest. And then they're back at the office. So there's a lot of pieces that go into that. And I just wanted to share that with everyone, that there are things that are happening behind the scenes, and you might not think, when you ask me, Mayor, you have anything to say? And I don't. I really don't. I just want to let you know that those are the things that we're working on, we're focusing on, to give you a sense of it. Between July 16th and July 19th, 153 people were killed across the nation. And I'd just like to give an overview of the nations. There are governors, there are mayors, and there are police chiefs across the nation that are dealing with this gun violence. And every time we deal with the gun violence, there's a family attached to that. There's loved ones that are attached to that. But there's a process that we have to deal with that, and it's not always as fast as many people would like it to happen, but it happens. So just wanted to be very, very clear and just give an overview of where we are. The chief is going to talk about some other pieces that we're working on. We are tirelessly working with the governor's office. We're tirelessly working with other law enforcement agencies to deal with our strategic plan and how we want to address the violence and the crime. The last piece that I will say that we've really focused on, and I've met with some of our social service agencies as recently as yesterday, really focusing on the mental health. Those who have gone through some post-traumatic stress. It is real to lose a loved one. If you're a young man or woman, you lose a loved one, they may not know how to process that. So we're working with our social services agencies to really figure out a way that makes sure that if they need that help, we will get that. And we're also working with our local clergy to be engaged and involved, and where they're going out to the families at home and giving them support as well. So I'll stop there. I'll let Chief Davis come in, give you some brief comments and some remarks.
Good morning, everyone. The mayor pretty much summed it up. But as some of you and some of our local news outlets have reported, there is a substantial link around violence in the area of bars and nightclubs. We've had 5 major shootings involving one of these bars and nightclubs. So the Youngstown Police Department, in a response to this violence and disorderly, in particular around bars, have discussed strategies to address this problem. Now, our focus will be managing large crowds, leaving the bars without targeting specific individuals. We have met with several bar owners recently and have discussed plans to make clubs and bars safer by actively prompting dispersal at the end of the night. The mayor and I have met with Governor DeWine and his staff, and they will be joining us in this effort. Captain Rod Foley, who heads up our detective division, also has another important piece that I think, and another dynamic that I think you will find interesting, Captain Foley.
Well, it's still morning. Good morning, everybody. One of the things that myself and detectives have realized after investigating these incidents is you realize that there's a lot of melee that happens when these types of events happen afterwards, and trying to get up there and corral all the witnesses that were there at the scene. And what we're finding out is, unfortunately, a lot of the security apparatuses that were set up by these bars are failing. Maybe no fault at all of the bar owner, but probably just through lack of planning and forecasting what events could and hopefully would never happen, sometimes do happen at these bars. So we're going to try to set some things up to assist security, maybe identify bar owners who are trying to at least take some process or steps towards creating a safer environment. We want to make sure that they understand what they are permitted to do and not permitted to do. So we're going to go out there and with our officers working, especially in the evening hours, to actively go out to the bar owners and work with their security and determine if that security is appropriate for that particular establishment. If not, we're going to try to immediately stop it that night. But we're going to be working with the state also on that to train some of our officers what to look for, to try to help bar owners out there to make sure that if they are spending the money for security, they're getting what they're paid for. So we're going to be working with that over the next few weeks. We're going to be training some of our undercover officers also to work on that program. And so hopefully what we're trying to do, as the mayor and the chief mentioned, is to provide a safe environment for people to continue to go out. You shouldn't have to go to a bar and run for your car at the end of the night hoping that you don't get hit by stray gunfire. So we had to put a climate out there that people know that bringing firearms to a bar is illegal. You will be arrested for it. But we also want to make sure that we're trying to provide an environment where we're trying to help bar owners and their patrons to get to and from these locations safely.
Just briefly, you know, I think it goes without saying we're experiencing an unprecedented time in law enforcement with the rise in violence coupled with short staffing. And the chief and I and mayor were just discussing this morning, just recognizing the amazing job that the men and women of the Youngstown Police Department do. The detectives, it's unspeakable the tireless amount of hours they put in to solve these crimes. We have officers on an unseen amount of overtime, mandated overtime in the patrol division. They're tired, and just the amazing professional job that the men and women of the Youngstown Police are still able to do under these conditions. It doesn't go unrecognized by the mayor, chief, and myself. So we'll open up the questions for anybody.
Come on, Joe.
Well,
Joe, we know you have one.
I don't have any questions about it, but I do have questions about the events on the weekend. I have this. Anybody can.
You're pointing at me, Joe. Why is
I'm sorry, Slam.
No, that's not.
Because I have some questions about what happened at Stacy's, and I have a question or two about what happened at the gas station on Sunday. So.
Captain Foley, I guess you'd probably be best
Go
to.
ahead, Joe, what's your? Well, first of all, Miss Daisy's are where was 3 people were wounded. How are they doing? I know one was taken to surgery.
I know Sergeant Spallison is in the back room. He was at the scene. He went and actually spoke to 2 of the 3 victims. I believe 2 were released that night, the 2 females. The last I heard, and that the male was recovering.
Okay.
So that's where we're at right there.
Can you say, was it more, what happened? Was there more than one person fired a shot? Was there just one person who fired?
Well, all we know now is that we believe that there was one person shooting, but we haven't established that all the way at this point.
Any idea? I'm not asking for a whole bunch of specifics, but any idea? Was there some kind of argument that happened before? Was there an argument that happened outside, inside?
It's an ongoing investigation.
Okay, all right. And then I was curious about Sunday night at the I don't think this was ever cleared up or asked. This young man who unfortunately was killed. Did somebody shoot? Was somebody in the parking lot with him when he was shot, or was that shot fired from the street?
Well, like I say, that's an active investigation still, but we could say that the perpetrator was nearby.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else?
2 questions for me. Any updates to the other shootings, Utopia, Torch, or any of those?
We do not have any updates on the Utopia right now. We're still, trying to cultivate informants and I should say witnesses. We had a lot of people there that night. Unfortunately, a lot of people just don't want to be involved. So we're still kind of at some dead ends on that particular case. It's still open. We're still looking into it. And the Torch, right now, we're still waiting for ballistics to come back through BCI analysis.
And what level of concern do you have that a shooting is going to miss its intended target and spill into somebody who was unintended?
Dave, that's anywhere you go. I mean, you look across the nation and you go to the mall, and a dispute between a domestic husband and wife, and the guy's shooting at the wife, but the bullet goes through you, or I could shoot you right now, it may hit Joe. So anytime that the safety is our number one thought. That's why we say, we're continuing to tell you that bringing guns to these events is not what we need to. That's not acceptable. So gun violence, you never know. I mean, you aim, and even some of our best officers who've been trained at being snipers, they'll tell you that the trajectory, the wind, all that's there. But if you're not experienced with shooting guns, you can't say. And even those who are experienced, they can't say without a doubt it won't hit others. One of the things I also wanted to say, what we're working with the governor on, is that a lot of times you ask a good question. How are the other cases going? We have evidence and ballistics, and it's just a matter of how many other cities, other towns are waiting to get the same. We're in line to get our evidence, approved from the state, and see what comes back off of that. So we're trying to figure out if there's a way that we can expedite that, but there's a long line, and that's the hardest part right now, for us to wait. But even harder is for the families to wait for some information, some closure, if possible.
Will this bar effort start on the south side where it seems to be happening now, or will you go somewhere else with it?
Dave, I'm anyone who serves alcohol, who has a DJ. This won't just be an isolated location. It just appears that these are there, but we want all restaurants and bars to be safe. So it's a collective effort, even of those who are deem themselves right now to say, you know what, we don't have that problem. Well, we want to make sure that we give you put the safety mechanisms in place, or that you can identify those issues when they start arising, to say, you know what, we probably need to put some more safety measures in place. So, and this is something that we've not created this. This is other places. We're meeting with individuals out of Cleveland who've had this. So it's not the first time this happened, but we're taking the best practice.
How would it work for a bar owner at closing time? People would have to disperse, and would the police then go to each bar? And,
I'm not quite sure the logistics of that.
how would that work?
If, Chief, you got a strategy on the thoughts or something?
Well, actually, we've already started, and I'll tell you this: in the downtown areas, we were experiencing some problems with crowds. right at closing time. So we've already assigned officers from our neighborhood response unit to address that, and they've been quite successful in just a couple of weeks. So we're going to do that now. We're going to expand that into the other parts of the city.
And one thing Chief Davis has done that's been a little different, he invited some bar and property owners to our police department staff meeting and brought them into the meeting to discuss it. The mayor was there, a council member was there, which is a little different than we've done in the past. And it was extremely productive to be able to get everyone in one room and talk about this, because we all have a common goal, is disorderly disbursement of the bars and to help the property owners and bar owners. So that was effective and different, and I'd like to think we'll continue that as well. So
Yeah, definitely. Joe?
Is there anything you could, I might already know the answer to this, is there anything you could do to help with the mandated overtime?
Actually, we are set to meet, the chief and I are meeting with the patrol commanders this Friday to come up with some innovative ideas. Hopefully, the patrol union is also going to participate in that. They've been invited as well, and we're open to any and all ideas. Again, like I mentioned, these unprecedented times to alleviate the mandation of overtime in general to provide some relief for the patrol division. Absolutely.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I know one problem you mentioned today was gun violence going with local bars in the area, but I know that there's a couple other issues that contribute to like this increase in gun violence. One of them specifically told us a couple of days ago was just having suspect or having witnesses and individuals want to talk, they don't want to talk. How do you fix that, or what can you do to because I'm sure that's been an issue for other cities, municipalities, and how are you going to go about getting people to talk?
Yeah, that's if I could probably write a book if I had the one answer. There's multiple pieces to that. I think one of the things is trust. You've got to build trust, and I can tell you from just as over the last 3 to 4 months, we've seen an increase of individuals sharing information with myself and Chief, and we've met with individuals who give great information. And one of the things they say, I love my community, I love my city, and I want to share this, but I don't want to have any retaliation happen to me. So it's a delicate balance, but it's about building trust, and I think we're doing it, and it's a matter of doing it a lot faster. And people are very cautious. They don't want to disturb their home life, but a lot of times you'll find individuals, they say they believe it's their obligation to do so, and that's my plea is always, if you share the information with me as the mayor. If you told me your name was Jack, when I give it to the chief, I don't give a name. I say, Chief, I have this information. Here's what you need to do with it. And once he gets it, I don't probe back again and say, what happened to that information, because I want to make sure that it stays anonymous for us. So those are things that I pride myself on. And people will stop me on the streets and tell me. And I make a disclaimer. When you tell me something, I won't say Dave said it. I'll say, Chief, I got some information. I'll call the detectives. If you guys don't know this information, here's another piece of information. Here's another name. So I'm continuing to plead with the community. If you know something, say something, and just give me the information. I'll share it with the detectives. I'll share it with the chief. Ed?
I think you said a while back you might get some help financially with the body cameras. Do you have a yes or no answer as to whether?
Yes, that's probably it's happening with the body cameras. It's not the buying the cameras; it's the storage. I think the governor just put monies in the budget for storage, and I think it's going to be a grant. I think it's going to be competitive, but we believe that that's something we can collectively be a part of.
Meaning it's not just going to be for Youngstown?
No,
it's
not by ourselves. No, it's in the state budget, so other communities can do so. I could probably look at it, and hopefully they'll look at places like Youngstown, Ohio, and we were probably one of the top 8 mid-sized cities that were invited to the governor's house, and we probably would have an advantage because of our numbers, our crime, and just our sheer population. Thank you. Anybody else?
So yeah, one more question. So beyond just shootings going on around local bars, during night, Obviously, the gas station shooting Sunday, there's other issues I'm sure that are contributing to the increase in shootings. So what else is the problem in Youngstown specifically, just recently that's contributing to this increase in numbers we're seeing with shootings and gun violence?
I won't say recent. I've been living in this community all my life. Drugs, drugs and guns, they go hand in hand. If I'm a drug dealer, I need to think I need a gun, and they're now even more increasingly. There's a lot more straw purchase of guns out in the street. It is becoming rampant that individuals who probably 2 years ago didn't have an opportunity to buy a gun, they're able to buy them off the street. So that's why we're working with our federal agencies to really see if we can curb those straw purchases on the street. All right, guys. Thank you.